Here we go. It's Monday with Jesus. And this is a great day. I'm Amelia.
Hi, this is Tom.
Well, it's a great day because today we are telling the resurrection story from the Gospel of Matthew for Easter Sunday, 2023. And Tom will tell the story and then we'll talk about it a little bit. Go ahead, Tom.
So this is the story. After the Sabbath, as the first day of the week was dawning, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to see the tomb. And suddenly there was a great earthquake, for an angel of the Lord descended from heaven, rolled back the stone, and sat on it. His appearance was like lightning, and his raiment was white as snow, and for fear of him, the guards trembled and became like dead men. But the angel said to the women, "Don't you be afraid, for I know that you are seeking Jesus, who was crucified. He isn't here, for he has been raised from the dead. Come and see the place where he lay, and then go and tell his disciples, he has been raised from the dead, and he is going ahead of you to Galilee. There you will see him." This is my message for you. And the women left the tomb quickly with fear and great joy and ran to tell the disciples. But as they were going, suddenly Jesus appeared to them. And he said to them, "Greetings." And they came to him, and they took hold of his feet, and they worshiped him. And he said to them, "Don't be afraid, but go tell my disciples that I am going ahead of them to Galilee, and there they will see me."
Yeah, thank you, Tom. I chuckled when you were came to the part where the women meet Jesus on the road. Because sometimes you tell that story and you say, "So I met Jesus on the road and he said, hi."
Yeah, well, I was
I wondered if you were debating
making an instant decision about the ambiguity of how to translate that word.
Yeah, well, let's start there. What is that word in Greek? What does it mean? And is there I mean, is greetings is the way it's usually translated.
Well, that's the way it's translated, but that's such a, I don't know. It's not it just doesn't seem like an appropriate greetings. The word is kairete in Greek, which literally means to rejoice. And so it is, it's like saying, "Hey man, rejoice."
Well, you're not gonna say "hey man" to two women.
I know, it's like, so yes, hey women. So
well, anyway, yeah, okay.
So it's variously translated as greetings, as hail. I've seen that. Behold. and this, I think the best available translation is high, but
That seems a little too informal too, or
that
something.
seems a little, for the resurrected Jesus seems a little informal.
Yeah.
Greetings seems a little, so there's no good translation for it.
Yeah. Okay. So people will just have to make up their minds what they want to do.
Yeah, well, that's
Probably go with greetings. That's, I guess, what we usually do.
yeah.
I want to talk about the resurrection stories a little bit. Last month, 9 of us from my church went back to the jail to teach stories. We call it Sacred Stories. We haven't been there for 3 years since the pandemic. And they hadn't had any classes for 3 years, but things have opened up a little bit. So we're doing that. And we're starting with Mark's Passion. Well, not all of it, just only really 4 stories from Mark's The Passion, and then Mark's resurrection story, and then the other 3 resurrection stories. So I was telling them about, how we were going to do all 4 resurrection stories. And I said something like, the super important is in all 4 gospels, and probably was the first of the stories about Jesus that was told, but I wasn't really sure that was true. So, I mean, what is what's the timeline for the composition? I mean, was this an early story about Jesus that was circulated, or did it come after the teaching stories, or don't we really know kind of the order of things?
Well, we don't know the order of things. But what is distinctive about this story and the Passion narratives is that it's so different in all 4 gospels. So if you were going to ask, what factually took place, it's impossible to answer that question on the basis of the sources that we have. Mark says it was Mary Magdalene, Mary, the mother of James the Younger, and Joseph, and Salome. And John says,
so you're saying that we don't really know if this was like one of the first stories that was told about Jesus?
Right, we don't know.
Oh, okay, all right. Well,
and the fact that there are 4 different stories implies that this tradition had circulated, but that there wasn't a definitive telling of the story that took hold, in contrast to the major elements of the Passion narrative, such as Peter's denial, which is virtually word for word in all 4 gospels. So those early stories were established and then were told in ways that were, very close to an original story that was told more or less word for word in some places.
You're talking about the Passion part of the story,
right?
Okay, so the resurrection stories, they're the ones that differ so much,
right?
So
go
ahead.
So the idea that we can take these stories literally as a factual description of what actually took place is simply not credible, because we have 4 different stories. There are 4 different groups of 4 different women, but there are always women.
Is Mary Magdalene in all of them?
Yes.
Yeah, so she's a constant. And then in this story, we have Mary Magdalene and the other Mary. Do we have any sense of who that was? Was that Jesus's mother? Is that the wife of Cleopas?
In Mark's story, it's Mary Magdalene and Mary the mother. So she's the other Mary in Mark's story. And it might be that this is a reference to Mark's story. There are a lot of elements that are similar in this story. There's an angel. There's, he has a message for them.
Same message, pretty much.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
It's very similar.
Yeah. So in Mark, the women come and they're talking about how to roll away the stone. That doesn't happen in this story. And there they see the stones rolled away. Here, the angel comes down and rolls it away. So we get, we get this kind of visualize that part and then sits on it.
Right.
What I love that. But
yeah. The sign of domination, of triumph, of victory, just sit on the stone and, hey, all right.
No stone's going to keep God out, huh? Yeah.
Right.
All right. Well, and then you have the guards. There's no guards in any of the other versions, is there? Are there?
Well, no, not really.
Yeah, okay. So you have the two guards, and they tremble and become like dead men. What's that about?
Well, it's a sign that they recognize that this is a divine figure and that they're terrified. And so it is another element that is, in significant ways, humorous, that these armed guards are absolutely intimidated by this agent, this messenger from heaven, who represents the powers of the New Age, and is a figure who is terrifying to them.
And we know, I mean, right before this resurrection story, we've learned about the whole business about the guards. So the Jewish authorities come to Pilate and ask, they're concerned that the Jesus's disciples will take the body and then claim that he's risen, right?
Right.
And so Pilate says, okay, I'll send guards to make sure that
Pilate says, you have guards.
So are these Roman guards or are these Judean guards?
Well, the chief priests were they were the ones who had a police force. They were in charge of domestic peace. The Roman guards were not around, around the temple. They were primarily there to guard the Roman establishment and the Roman buildings.
Okay, so these aren't
guards.
Roman guards.
Were Judean guards. They were the police force of Jerusalem, and so they were. So Pilate says to them, "You've got your own police force. You mount a guard at the tomb if you want to." Okay.
So another element at the beginning of the story is there was an earthquake. What is that supposed to communicate to the audience?
Well, it is frightening. It's a sign of divine power and of the shaking up of the way things are. So it's a sign of the dawn of the new age, and is a sign of the power of the powers of the new age. So it's it's a very intimidating thing. I've just recently talked to someone who was in the middle of a big earthquake. They said it was terrifying. The ground was shaking and the building was shaking, and they didn't know whether it was going to fall in, and so on. So
well, of course, we just had this horrible earthquake in Turkey and Syria that killed, I've lost track, 50,000 people, some horrendous number of people. So I don't. In light of that, then when I was reading this story and came to earthquake, it was hard to disconnect it from the, a horrific natural disaster in Turkey. But I don't think that's the significance here so much, but it is a frightening thing, as you say.
Right.
Yeah. And then also the angel, let's see, he appears like lightning. His clothes are white as snow. It's a little bit reminiscent of Jesus, the Transfiguration story.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Yep.
Definitely a heavenly messenger.
Heavenly messenger, a divine sign, the lightning, another, action from heaven as a source of power. Yes.
He tells the women that Jesus who was crucified, has been raised.
Well, he first says, "Don't you be afraid."
Oh yeah, right.
And I've added that "you" because it is in the Greek, but it's been eliminated for some reason by the translators. But I think it's in contrast. The guards, you be afraid. Women, you don't you be afraid. We'll let them deal with their own terror. You can relax, and I know that you're looking for Jesus, who was crucified, and he's been raised. So,
and then it says the evidence is come. Does he say come and see? Is that what he?
Yeah, come and see the place where he lay.
Yeah, nothing, no body in there. Yeah,
right, and then go and tell.
Yeah. So in this case, let's see, in Mark, the women leave. I guess they're trembling too, and they're afraid, but they don't say anything to anybody. In this case, they're leaving. They're also, it says fear, but it's kind of like fear, awe type fear, maybe, because they also have great joy.
Right. It's with fear and great joy.
Right. And they're running. So, yeah, I mean, right. I guess, yeah. But they come across Jesus, who says the same thing to them, right? Don't be afraid. No.
Yep.
Yeah.
He doesn't say, "Don't you be afraid," in the way that the angel does. Don't be afraid.
Yeah. They fall down and worship. Will they hold his feet or something? I can't remember.
Yeah, they take hold of his feet. It's a sign of, a very high degree of, respect, of honor, and of their being overwhelmed with joy and fear, now seeing the risen Christ, seeing Jesus resurrected.
And he tells them, I think he says, go tell my brothers. Is that what he?
Right.
Is this the first time he's called them brothers, or?
Yes, in the story it is.
Okay.
Prior to this, it's his disciples.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. And he doesn't single out Peter.
Right.
I know Mark's version so well, and when you don't, I mean, what about Peter? What about Peter?
Right.
And Matthew doesn't single out Peter. So.
No.
Yeah. Okay. So talk a little bit about resurrection. I mean, the word resurrection isn't actually in the story. We call it the resurrection story, but he's been raised, right?
Right.
And it's not he is risen, it's he's been raised. Am I right about that? Which is different. It's something God has done.
It's a divine action.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Well, resurrection is a victory over the power of death. It is a new development in the history of stories about new life. And this one is, on the one hand, very quiet. And so it's not a big victory story where everybody's jumping around and is happy.
Not like the triumphal entry.
Not like the triumphal entry.
Yeah.
Not like the celebration. I just saw the end of the NCAA women's basketball thing. At the end of it, everybody's jumping around and everybody's this is not like that. This is a sober recognition of the power of God, power of the new age, victorious over the powers of death. And so it is a quiet joy. It is a grounded story that is grounded in calm, divine action. So this is something that God has done as a sign of the birth of this new age of the dominance of life over the power of death.
And lastly, what might we take from this story with regard to ministries of peace and justice?
It is a story that provides the foundation for a new system of justice. I think about it in relation to our system of mass incarceration in the United States. We imprison more people than any country in the world. And that is a sign of our lack of confidence in the possibility of people being transformed, of people being rehabilitated, of the power of life to transform people's lives. And so this is a new system of justice that is implicit in the resurrection, in which Jesus will be a kind of judge who will establish justice on the basis of honor, peace, reconciliation, forgiveness, rehabilitation, new life. So it has major implications for the way in which we would structure our efforts to control the powers of evil. This is another way of establishing justice.
Okay. Thank you, Tom. Thanks all of you for watching. Have a blessed Easter, and recall that every Sunday is we celebrate the resurrection.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Happy resurrection.
Happy resurrection. Greetings. Jesus.
Hi. Bye.